This is my local park, Cedars Park in Cheshunt, and this video is not in any way trying to criticise Broxbourne Council or say anything negative, but I just kind of would like to know a bit more information, and I think many people I've spoken to are also a bit confused. Because these walls of the palace, the Great Garden, and a couple of others around the park are in a very bad state. This one's already collapsed. I think it was in 2018. So that's 7 years ago this collapsed. It may have even been before that, but they've had to close off this area because this used to be a walkway, and they've had to just shut it off because of the damaged walls. It's a bit dangerous. And you can see how long it's been, because this is so overgrown, with all the seeds falling from these trees and weeds and everything growing. And this looks horrible in the park, first of all, but also these walls are so historic because they're part of Theobalds Palace, which was the grandest palace of the Jacobean era. And this was one of the sections of the Great Garden, or around that area, and this wall really should be preserved with a high importance. They should be making sure that this is built up and it's all in a good state and not in disrepair like this. This end wall over here is right next to the Venusberg mound where children climb up, and there's obviously some kind of risk to collapse because the council have decided to fence it off. So it's not like that's safe either. But, you know, these areas have been left fenced off, and there's got to be a reason for that regarding the structural integrity of these walls. But I'm not really sure why they haven't done anything about this, because these walls were treated with soft lime mortar years back when they did the restoration project, and I think that has probably helped them to last for longer, and that's a very good thing that the council did. But my guess is that they need to be repaired further, because you can see over there where they have repaired it, and that stayed very strong. But there are plenty of places where they have even older walls, and they've preserved them really well so that they don't fall into a state of disrepair like this. But I'm actually shocked at how long this has stayed broken and not repaired. But maybe it's that the council doesn't have the funds to do it. I'm not really sure of the issues, but it's a bit surprising to the users of the park, the locals, who know the importance of these walls and that they should be preserved. Otherwise, they'll start to fall into further disrepair. You can see over here where there are areas literally crumbling because of how old it is. This may even be a repaired part, not sure, but these look like very old bricks and stones. And I think this part of the wall is vulnerable, but they have taken efforts, clearly, to repair it, because these are all filled in like this. So it's not like they haven't taken any efforts to repair it, but that was long back that they did this. 2014, I think it was. That might be wrong, but the fact remains that this is such an important wall. The whole park is important, but some of them are scheduled monuments, and I wonder if, I don't know how this is even allowed by English Heritage or whoever creates the historic, the scheduled monuments and the protection for the historic walls and structures that should be preserved. But over here where the bee bowls are, again, it's all been very well preserved. But, you know, it's very strange that these walls have been left to go into such a state of disrepair when they're part of royal history and English history, you know. They've got, this was an important palace, and eventually, if all the walls fall down in years to come, there won't be much left, because most of it was demolished. The whole main building was demolished pretty much during the English Civil War, when they wanted to get the lead from the roofs to pay for the troops. But these walls are all that remains, really, of the palace's legacy, the original palace that the King James I had expanded in the 1600s. So the council would really they should really be prioritising the repair of these walls as a matter of great importance in the management of this park. But I'm not sure what the budget of the council is. It may be that they don't have the funds to actually carry out these restoration projects, but I hope that they do find the funds and do find the tools to actually do this, because it's really saddening for many of us in the park community. Some people may not really understand how important these walls are or think that it's important to preserve them, but we, with actually a sense of historical importance, see that they really are being not preserved as they should be when they're so important. But I have no idea what the issue is, if it's a matter of finance or if it's just that the council believes that their money should be spent elsewhere. But the fact is, I don't think anyone you ask in Waltham Cross on the streets, unless maybe they work with the council or something, will think that the Waltham Cross restoration project is something that's worth the £2 million or however much they're spending on it, when things like this are being neglected. There is no reason why they can't be putting soft lime mortar or another strong restoration technique to these walls to help them stand for longer, because they didn't do it for that one and that's completely collapsed. And there must be a reason that they're doing it, this fencing for this wall, because this is vulnerable. So clearly there's something gone wrong on this side. It's fenced off on the other side as well. This is one of the only examples of royal bee bowls in England, and if this eventually goes in 20 or 30 years, there'll be nothing from this era to actually show that. But the fact that it's such a royal historic wall is really something that should make people think, why isn't this being preserved? Because this is a part of our national history and something of importance for royal palaces. And this is, you know, one of the actual royal palaces that is not intact, so it's not run by the Royal Palace organisation that runs the other ones. So it's run by the local authority. But this is obviously not being dealt with as a matter of importance when these walls are important, you know. And I think this is just something that's natural, but I don't know whether that's from the treatment or if that's something that's potentially weakening it. I don't know, but I think it's just that this filler that they used in between the bricks is so old that it's just starting to weaken. I'm not really sure how it doesn't get restored. But this whole bit here as well, this wall used to be here, and about 2 or 3 years ago this fell down because it was so weak, so they've had to demolish that bit. And they have actually but they protected this by putting fences around it, so I don't know whether that's helped at all. But these haven't really degraded in their structural integrity over the past few years, as long as I've known them. So these seem to be quite strong, I guess, because they're made of mostly flint. But then this wall over here that was made of brick has collapsed within the last year or so. And you actually used to get children climbing on this broken wall, and it's very dangerous if there's young children with these loose bricks. So I'm glad the council actually had the sense to put this fence here. But this wall used to be a bit further up and it's collapsed now, so this fence is really good. But again, these things should be preserved, because this is another part of the royal palace. And then you've got this flint part over here, which is also fine, that's okay. But this here has collapsed there, where it's obviously not been treated. So I'm not really sure what they plan to do. But again, this is another good thing. This is one of the positives that they did. They actually filled that in with new bricks. So that's just helping to make it look nice. I mean, look how much nicer that looks when they've actually filled it in compared to a damaged wall. But I think it's horrible how the palace walls in that great garden there, the surrounding wall, have been left in such a state of disrepair in the past few years that actually you can't just walk through there and enjoy the garden. You've got this disgusting silver fence there with this broken wall, overgrown, when it could be a beautiful old wall. It may be that it's protected by some kind of laws that say you can't use certain materials and that it's very expensive to do so. In that case, I think hopefully the council can find some kind of funding, but this video is not to criticise the council. I'm sure many of the people there, hopefully, I would hope so, share my views on the importance of these walls, and that the council does have a degree of responsibility to manage them properly and preserve them under the management of this park. But no one has seen any improvement here of the structural integrity of these walls, and it's just not looking nice at all for for the park users and the visitors who come here. And it does actually give a bad image of the council, because it looks like they're not looking after their park. And if someone comes here on one visit and they come back, you know, 7 years later, like it has been, and they've got the same wall in disrepair, overgrown, what image does that give to the council, of the council, to say, you know, we're looking after this park, we're actually doing a competent job of managing it? It doesn't. It tells people that these important walls, we've seen that they've collapsed, and the best thing we can do is put this tacky temporary fence there for 7 years without even making any further restorations to this wall. It's horrible to see these historic structures being neglected, you know. And I hope other people share their views with me. Maybe I'm just a bit crazy for making this video, because I haven't heard anyone else talking about it. But it's disgusting that these old walls have been left in that state. And I hope the council do share my views, and I'd love to actually get some more information about what's going on, because there hasn't been any communication with the park community about this, or with the Friends of Cedars Park about what's actually the reason behind why these walls haven't been restored. So we do very greatly appreciate the council's efforts to restore them and to fill them in during the restoration project, and to actually put the fences there to stop them being trampled on and everything. That's very good that they've actually protected it, because some places don't do that and then they get further damage. So that's a really good thing that the council did. But we'd just like to kind of know a bit more information, and for there to be a bit more transparency about why these walls have been left, some up to 7 years, to further decay and not be restored as they really should be, because they're so important. So we'd very much appreciate knowing some more information. Thank you.